Today we have the most legendary, and Audi from the 80s drove almost no secret that the Quattro was revolutionary at its inception. After all, it was she who brought four-wheel drive to the world of rally and popularized it among serial civilian cars. Without a Quattro, we probably still did not know what it is. Safe driving on slippery surfaces and effective implementation of engine power when starting from a place on a rainy day. But for the sake of fairness, it should be said that a permanent all-wheel drive serial passenger car was introduced before the birth of the first Quattro. So back in 1966, the Jensen FE Coupe saw the light with a self-locking center differential and a 325 horsepower V-engine, and this car was not destined to become one few known four-wheel drive passenger car A.M. Genève. Precisely the subsequent victories in the rally and competent marketing, Audi brought an all-wheel drive system to the masses. Structurally, one Quattro was still simpler than the aforementioned cars with a limited slip differential. The engine was located longitudinally and a free differential was built into the gearbox housing, which equally distributed the moment grazing at the moment when any of the four began to slip. Wheels: the driver had to activate manual locks so that the car retained good grip. Today, looking back at the past, it becomes clear that Jensen and Max were technically committed on roads with variable coupling properties. They were easier due to the self-locking center differential, however. No one before Audi lied to use all-wheel drive, which is why successes did not make themselves long. Wait, already in their first race in 1981, Quattro redistribution of the leader by 9 minutes. True, Audi then performed out of competition then in the fall of 81, and Quattro spoke to the whole world. Michèle Mouton became the first woman to win a tap of the World Rally Championship in San Remo. Having proved the advantage of all-wheel drive, and in 1982 Audi won the World Rally Champion title among manufacturers. The serial civilian model went on sale in July of the 80th year and received a 200-strong turbocharged engine with a volume of 2.10 liters, all the aforementioned all-wheel drive technology. But all of the above was a tribute to history, and today I want to tell you essentially about the evolutionary branches of the original Quattro, mainly about the sports mode model that causes wild delight among its fans, and to this day generally excited. In the early 80s, rally competitors from the world of rally Audi forced them to develop their own all-wheel drive system already for the 1984 season in the most prestigious Group B. They needed an affiliate, namely the Peugeot 205 and 16, which had an advantage over the Quattro. Medium engine layout, lighter weight and dimensions, Audi as if it had foreseen it and developed the Sport Quattro especially for Group B races in AE. To improve weight distribution and controllability, as well as to reduce weight, the wheelbase. The novelty has been reduced by as much as 32 centimeters compared to the homologation Quattro model. The I version for public roads also became 32 centimeters shorter and under it. The bonnet has settled down to new inline 5-cylinder motors with progressive tires of the time. A head with 4 valves per cylinder promised an increase in power on large ones. RPM, of course, this is by no means all. The engine got a huge turbo tricket, calculated for a pressure of 1.300 of a bow, cooled down to the same decently compressed and heated air by means of an air-to-air intercooler. The compression ratio was equal to 8:1, and the quality of the fuel-air mixture was controlled by an electronic system. Algetronic injection. The total output of this super progressive at the time power plant in the civilian version reached as much as 306 horsepower with a volume of 2.1 liters, that is, as much as 145 horsepower was removed from the liter, and this is the level of M in 2016. Model year, a torque of 350 Nm was achieved at 3,800 RPM. Per minute. The all-wheel drive system was similar to that of the Quattro, but the 5-speed mechanics received different gear ratios and reinforced gear's temperament. The resulting rally car for public roads was explosive up to 3,000 cars and almost didn't drive in view of the turbo log. Then the pickup began, while to 4,000 U received a real blow with a sledgehammer in the back, or rather a mache, and I don't remember the acceleration. Not a single production car from 1984 capable of exchanging the first 100 in 4.7 seconds. And again, thanks to the all-wheel drive, such a result can be stamped regardless. From the weather, road competitors in Group B Peugeot 205 and 16 were content with pitiful ones on this one. The background of 7 seconds of acceleration to 100 km per hour and even later road versions. The Lianca Delta S4 and the Ford Rs performed the worst. Results due to the lower power. And the water really created a real catapult. For its time after all, even everything. The then existing supercars accelerated to hundreds of slow, for example 400 horsepower. Ferrari flagship jet about the exchange of the shaft 100 in 4.8 seconds. Hypercar Lambo can't also. During the same time, the 911 Porsche lagged behind even more. What can we say about Serial Bs in Mercedes? At least some kind of competition Sport Quattro in exercise from 0 to 100 km per hour could make up perhaps some MAA and Alpine, and then the gap reached a second up to 200 km per hour. Mad Audi accelerated in 21 0.8 of a second and a kilometer from a standstill. Passed in 24.6 seconds last. The result corresponds to the level of BMW M Evo. Sample of 1995, but then even 1M simply did not exist and it was monstrous in a 6-liter Hummer, and then a maximum of 250 km per hour to upset the Sport Quattro was helped. Brakes with 4 piston calipers in a circle and discs with ventilation and perforation on. During the course the car felt stiff in view of the essentially rally suspension, and in corners it showed just phenomenal stability. Did not disappoint its car owners. Inside there was dominated by rich leather trim, anatomical Recaro chairs with powerful lateral supports combined. Trim had a lot of adjustments, the front panel pleased with high quality plastic with stitching, and there was also a good ID music system on the dashboard. The boost pressure indicator was located and the speedometer was marked 300 km per hour. The center console sheltered the engine temperature indicator and oil, as well as the pressure and oil indicator. The control unit was located just below differential locks, but the only drawback of the interior was the second row. Just a tiny margin of free space externally. Sport Quattro could be recognized by the swollen wheel arches shortened at the profile with the original bumper. The original headlights, also on the hood with a cutout, by the way, made a significant contribution to weight reduction. The body was made of metal, only the sills and doors, the rest of the elements were made of Kevlar and fiberglass, which is why the Massachusetts of the coupe, for all its complexity of the design, was only 1,290 kilograms. From February 84 to January 86, 214 Sport Quattro cars were produced. From 164 of them were sold to individuals, 19 were left by Audi for experimental work. 20 pieces were sold to sports organizations, another 11 were left in reserve, but 80. In the 8th year 5 reserve cars were sold to individuals, starting price tag 80. In the 5th year the car was 200,000 marks. At about the same time 200 strong Quattro worth 70,000 marks. But if you liked this video, put your likes and subscribe to the channel, and also do not forget to subscribe to my Instagram, link in the description.